millenniumnews24.com. Download the Millennium News 24 app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Stay tuned with Millennium TV and Millennium News 24 for the latest updates.
Welcome, 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 welcome. This is Universal Pathway Show, and I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Ill. And we air every Saturday from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on Millennium TV News 24. Today, I'm truly honored to be in the studio with a beautiful young lady, very dynamic, Miss Shanelle Gabriel. Introduced to myself by no other than Carl Gray, who's basically the CEO and president of the Young Gifted and Black Awards Gala right here in New York City. Today is truly an honor because not only is she dynamic, but her resume is vast. And she has turned what most people would consider a weakness into a strength. And that is the nature of Universal Pathway. It is an opportunity for any and everyone to be able to share their opportunity so others can benefit. And she represents her race in a tremendous way. So with that being said, I'm going to read a brief bio to really introduce our guest today. Shanelle Gabriel is a radiant force of healing and creative truth. A poet, singer, lupus advocate, and communications consultant hailing from Brooklyn, New York. Her journey has taken her from stages shared with the likes of Jill Scott, Nas, Nikki Giovanni, and Stacey Abrams to sacred cultural spaces like Carnegie Hall, the Vatican, HBO, Def Comedy Jams, where her voice has uplifted audience across the globe. With that being said, she's more than an artist. Shanelle is a vessel of purpose. She has partnered with global brands from the NFL Draft to Pandora, using her unique gift to weave powerful closing poems, live experiences that turn moments into memory. Her creative imprint can be found in events hosted by Fast Company's Innovation Festival, the Girl Scout of Greater New York, in addition to the African Diaspora Awards and galas across the nation, including Lincoln Center and the Billie Holiday Theater. Diagnosed with lupus in 2004, Shanelle transformed adversity into advocacy. She has since become a global voice for chronic illnesses, a warrior, and bringing healthcare, the equity it needs, delivering keynote speaking engagements alongside leaders such as our company, better yet, such as the NIH and the FDA, gracing the cover of the USA Today and serving on the Lupus Voice Council and the National Lupus Accelerating Breakthrough Consortium. As an educator with over 20 years of experience and a master's from Columbia University's Teachers College, Shanelle has brought wisdom into action, guiding youth to their goals, allowing them to set goals and also have a better knowledge as it pertains to financial literacy and purpose-based consulting for communities impacted by injustice. With that being said, Shanelle Path is one of resilience, remembrance, and rhythm. 3 R's, beautifully said. She walks the universal pathway by lifting voices, shifting narratives, and anchoring truth through every poem, program, and patient she inspires. So not only do we have 3 R's, but we also have 3 P's. Poem, program, patient, as she inspired others. So we have a very great example of what it means to be one who's not just learning through her life experience, but at the same time giving back. So welcome to Universal Pathway, Miss Shanelle Gabriel. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm so great. Oh, thank you so much for welcoming me in such a grand way. I appreciate being able to be here with you today.
It's truly an honor. I hope I did you some justice in, sharing from your vast experience. I'm very grateful for you to be able to do this show today. Honest to you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. No, you did. That was amazing. I'm definitely recycling that wonderful synopsis of my bio.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot. And I had to kind of bring it down. And I truly hope that all our audience listening today really look into her life, because her life speaks volume. And I did not really get deep into introducing her on that vast scale. But with that being said, you're both a poet, and prophetic in the sense that in looking at your work and even getting ready to prepare for this interview, I just see where you're impacting and changing lives so much so that even things you did, you've not only helped companies to profit more, but you really lift their potentiality up to how they're presented on a global scale as well. What moment in your life gave you the clarity or the insight that your words actually heal people, not just entertain?
Oh, I think it was honestly very much from the beginning. I started out as a singer. A lot of people don't know that. I started out in choir growing up in church, and my sister was the choir director. And so I was very much trying to be a music industry phenomenon. And very early, I felt like that calling wasn't there. And I think the first poetry slam competition I went in, and that's a competition, not just, people, not just spoken word performance, it was a competition. I just kind of said, I'll jump in the competition. I don't expect to win. And I did this little poem about my reflection on a breakup I was going through at the time. And I'm like, okay, I'll just share this thing. And so many people came up to me after saying, hey, I just broke up with my significant other and I really needed to hear that. And oh my gosh, yeah, thank you. I've been there. And that really was a moment where I got hungry to have more connections like that, where I realized that in sharing both my story and the things that I've learned from it, that it can help other people or even just connect you, all on a human level. And so I very early, that's what really made me fall in love with poetry and made me really move into that as my genre, even though I still sing and I very much weave poetry and music together in a lot of my work. But that was the moment very, very early on, realizing that, wow, people just want to see themselves reflected and their experiences reflected in others.
Well said. I can't agree with that more. A lot of people on a regular basis, they go through heartbreaks. And to be able to touch people on that basis where they actually want to hear more, it just speaks to, you have something where ones need to resonate. They actually naturally resonate with what it is because it's real. And the various different aspects of you presenting yourself and hearing even some of your lyrics, etc., it comes from a very authentic, genuine place. And you just kind of speak to how you're able to flip what would be deemed a negative into a positive. You've turned lupus diagnosis into a mission. And what you've learned about the body, the spirit, and the community from a living and chronic illnesses, and the illness that you have gone through, can you just share with us and others how it is that you've now turned what most people would deem a pain into such a powerful yet force-filled way of expressing yourself? Because I hear it in your poetry. You know what I mean? You speak about the negative, but then you flipped it and you just transmute it into something else. Can you speak to that a little bit? Just your ability to turn something that's negative into positive.
Sure. I kind of came up in a world where I felt, for various reasons, that, no matter what comes your way, you just got to figure it out. And that's just how I've always looked at it. And then I kind of realized that as I got older, it got harder and harder to just say, figure it out. It's like, no, I actually have to process this. And so with lupus, I was diagnosed in 2004. And at that time, I was a sophomore turning into a junior in college. And that's, I always say that was just the time in my life where I'm trying to figure out who I am, where I'm going. And so to have something just kind of take over your life in a way to, because it was such a new thing. And I frequently compare being diagnosed with a chronic illness to the stages of grief, because it's like there was a life before that you just thought was going to be there. And then you move forward and you're like, what is my life going to be like with this? And for me, I have a poem called Vanity, and maybe I'll probably share this with you all in the end, but the poem Vanity was me in the hospital. Wow. And really going, oh my gosh, this is my first time being hospitalized my whole life. I'd never been hospitalized, never broke a bone. My mom was a nurse, I never had to, ever have this experience in my life. And here I am in this hospital. And for some reason, while there was definitely a sense of mourning, of grieving, I kind of had this moment of acceptance where I said, okay, so this is what I have to factor into my life. But now that I know that this thing is so hard, one, I know I've been through so many other things in my life. This can't stop me. Two, I also thought about like just this idea that, man, if God forbid this thing takes me out, I don't want to live a life of regret.
Wow.
And from there, that's what inspired me to write that poem that I have. And it just kind of made me start seeing that it was just really important for me to always see that, one, no matter what I went through, I got to figure it out. I'm here. And if I'm still here, that means I can figure it out. And as long as I'm still here, there's something to do. I might have to pivot. I might have to change. And I've changed careers. Lupus has impacted me in ways that have had me have to change careers. Like I got off the road at one point in time because of how sick I got. And with all of that said, I'm like, well, listen, I'm still here. And I know people that have lupus that are not here. So how dare I waste this breath lingering too long in the anger, in the disappointment, in the frustration? How long? I can't live that long in there when I still have so much for me. And so that's my motto. That's just kind of how I move forward. And that's something that I, truth be told, there on a regular basis, because my lupus does, it flares and it fades a little bit. But when it's flared up, I have to talk myself through this too.
Wow. I'm going to ask you a question, Shanelle, and please just bear with me, because I've always tried to ask questions on the level where sometimes ones might not be exposed to something. And for that one individual who might not know what lupus is, can you speak to what is lupus real quick?
Yes, no, definitely, of course. Lupus, it's an autoimmune disease that in fact impacts the body where the immune system is overactive. That's autoimmune. So your immune system is almost overactive and it starts to attack and cause inflammation within the body itself. So there's a healthy cell that tells your brain, hey, there's an infection here, come and cause inflammation, which for all of us, inflammation is a good thing. That's usually how our body fights bacteria and foreign invaders. But in the person with lupus, that little cell somehow gets confused and it can impact any system of the body. There are a few types of lupus, but that's very much what we know it to be. So for a lot of people with lupus, there's inflammation in the joints, there's chest pain, there's hair loss, there's soreness in the body, circulation in your fingers. It can in fact affect so many different parts of the body. And Black and brown people are 3 times more likely to get lupus than our white counterparts. And it predominantly affects women. So it's a disease that's very, very much more common and more a part of the conversation now. Because when I was diagnosed with lupus, no one I knew had it except for Mercedes from Next Top Model. But now it's something, Tony Braxton is a very famous advocate. Nick Cannon has lupus. Selena Gomez has lupus. And Mooney Long has lupus. And there are a lot of different artists and well-known people that are talking about it.
Well, thank you for that. Very important, because in just really shedding light on the situation, there's always this need for people to have references because they might be struggling and not even know, make the connection. So the fact that you gave what these various different symptoms look like, one could now do that self-evaluation and say, wait a minute, maybe I need to get checked. Maybe I need to really see what this could be, because what she's saying makes sense. So thank you for...
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I think I'm going to quote a friend of mine, Timothy Gray, who is an amazing wellness professional and massage therapist. And he always says it's important for us to make sure that we listen to our body when it whispers so we don't have to hear it scream. And that quote I bring with me everywhere, because I really think for me, it took a while for me to get diagnosed, because a lot of times we do, like you said, we have these symptoms and we don't put it together, but really and truly they're symptoms, and they should, even if it's just one, you should, try to see as best as you can what might be wrong or what might be the solution. So I just wanted to bring that into the space very much because of what you said. I thought it was really, really important.
Indeed. No, thank you. Thank you. That is great. It's always good. The more information that we can disclose to other people is the more they have potential now to connect with us.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing that I'm seeing in your life is that you didn't stay there. Even like you said, your mom's a nurse, being in the hospital for the first time and just being able to handle that and then start to reflect on your entire life. So the question, like saying, so what do I do now? Um, uh, and what I'm seeing too is what this has led you to. So clearly, you've worked with youth, you've worked with educators, you're educated yourself, and brand builders. Not everyone have the opportunity to do things like that. Um, and I'm sure that you've seen a pattern in the people who have raised from difficult environments. How do you help them to activate this kind of drive that you now have within yourself?
Well, I think the first thing is a lot of, especially young people and young adults, a lot of times there are limitations that and lies. I can't even say there's anything else. A lot of times young people are told these very big limitations and lies that they hold on to so heavy. For example, I remember talking to a young girl, a part of a program that I work with called Exalt Youth. It's an amazing organization, and they serve youth that are impacted by the criminal justice system. And I remember her asking her like to tell me about herself, and she was like, "Well, I have an attitude." And I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "Well, you have an attitude." I was like, "Well, where'd you get that from?" And she's like, "Oh, everybody says I have an attitude." I said, "Well, do people provoke? Is it a bad attitude? Is it a good attitude?" "Well, no, I just have an attitude." And I had to explain to her. I said, why, when do you get an attitude? "When I think people treat me unfairly." I said, "That doesn't sound like an attitude. That sounds like a sense of justice." And you think about how these things are framed for young people and how much we highlight the things that they aren't doing, this deficit mentality, and we don't see the assets. So it's like a big part of it is helping young people see the assets that they have, even in sometimes the things that they get in trouble for. I'm like, yeah, you get in trouble because you might not always know how to convey the sense of justice you have.
Yes, yes.
But what are the ways we can channel that into something? And so I think that is the root. That's the first thing you start with. If you don't have kind of a belief in your own abilities, there's nothing I can do. And that's, I think, the foundation of what schools, spaces that serve young people should be focused on. How do we help them see the gifts that they have? How do we help them see that even though they did something wrong, they don't have this definition for the rest of their life?
Wow. Very profound insights. How do we help young people see the assets?
Mm-hmm.
The ability to ask questions like that and the ability to be that real with your own self and see the connection, because you're literally seeing the young people, which is the youth in yourself, outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, many times ones get misdiagnosed, even from a ability perspective. Like you said, if they can't own in to the ability within themselves, then the most you could do in serving them to better receive that clarity and see the pattern that they should now be on to have a better trajectory for their lives. We have to bridge that gap as communicators. I see why, you're deemed an inspirational speaker, etc., and being able to close out these big 500 companies in helping those who now went through their training to make the connection as to what was taught before they go back into the field and be able to now address the bottom line, which is increased profitability for companies. But in this instance, increasing the profitability of our contribution to life. So with that being said, we're going to go to a quick commercial and we'll be right back. This is Universal Pathway right here on Millennium News, right here in New York City. And we'll be right back with Shanelle Gabriel. I'm your host, Curtis Douglas Hill. We'll be back in a minute after this commercial. All right. My cue is if the tech guy is not able to go to the break, to the commercial, then I keep speaking. So with that being said, all right. Much of your work centers on identity, resilience, and justice, right?
Yep.
How do you guide people back to the divine self? And this is getting a little bit deeper now. So you just spoke about the pattern and once being able to see the ability. Am I still able to be heard?
Yeah,
Shanelle?
I can hear you. I got you.
Um, the young lady you spoke about just now, not being able to see her ability, speaks volume, especially within the melanated community, right? That ones might not see their ability because of perceived hardship, systematic hardship. The system is against us, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you now weave that? And that's what I said, your story and your life journey is very powerful because you've overcome adversity and you're now making what can be deemed a weakness and you flipped it into a strength. Like you said, you pivot. So what would you say to those now who are basically saying, hey, the system is against me. The system is actually set up for us to fail. What advice and what words of insight based on your experience would you give those who are listening to us right now?
Well, I'm a first generation immigrant, American. My family I come from a generation of immigrants. Okay, my family's all from Trinidad and Tobago, and
Okay.
one thing that I'm very much centered on is how hard that must have been. And I think about how the systems operate. I think about what it means to not have a legacy in a place or a space because of whether distance, I think I'm getting a little all over the place. Let me ground myself really quickly. I just think about who I've come from and how
Yes.
they had to figure it out and that there was no other option for them to figure it out. And so for me, I try to say as much as we know what the system does, it's important for us to know that we're a part of the system and also to recognize we need to try to challenge and break down these systems of oppression. However, we also know that we're in the system. And so we can break it as an entity, but also breaking it from within is really important. So if I know that this is the plot, they trying to incarcerate me, I know that they're trying to have me make bad decisions that's going to hurt me in the future. I know that they're making things very much distractions from my purpose on purpose, right? Or to make money off of me. I know these things are real. How am I falling into these traps? These are the traps that I need to not fall in. So I think it's very much about education, educating the population, educating people on like what it actually is outside of just the word racism. Or, we just like, this is racist. No, what is the actual breakdown? How does this impact us systemically? Knowing that helps you also go, okay, so this is what I'm facing. How do I challenge that? How do I work around that? How do I figure my life around that? Okay, they're not going to educate me in this school. How do I get the education and the knowledge that I need to know? Maybe they didn't educate me and I graduated high school and I'm not reading well. What do I need to do to read better? Maybe I go into a trade and that's something that's a better option for me. Like, what are the ways that we can challenge these systems instead of just recognizing and pointing at it? Because we can point at it forever. Yes, we definitely know we need to deconstruct them. But I'm not going to repeat myself, but I really do feel like a big part of it is education, as well as knowing how to work that system and how to play that system against itself as best as we can. And it's not perfect. It's not always going to work. You're going to meet challenges, and the challenges are going to come. Like, that's also another thing. Like, no matter what is hard, life is hard. And you have the resources and the ability and the mind and the brain and the wisdom to be able to overcome. And I think we just need to keep pouring that in, that you can figure this out. You can move forward. My mama did. My grandma did. My grandparents did. My ancestors did. Why do I think that this same system that they were impacted by in a different way, why do I think that I'm going to stop that? That's kind of, I guess, the long run of what I think about what we need to instill.
Well, thank you for that answer. And I hear a lot in what you're unfolding and just unpacking for us. You connected all the way back to your roots. You mentioned Trinidad, your grandmother, your mother. So you have ancestors and current, examples that has been great examples, strong examples. They did not run when the fire come. They found some water. So in other words, they're solution oriented, because what I'm hearing you say, we got to be solution oriented despite, the situation is going to be what it is. But how do we now see beyond the current issue? So a system is just that. It's a system. It's what we do with it. And it's just great to be able to have that lineage One of the beautiful thing about Trinidad, for instance, and the Caribbean, the ancient Atlantis islands, for instance, is that once is now we're used to going from the Caribbean to the mainland, what we call the Americas. So people might fall and, new individuals might be in power. But the question now being, how do we pick ourselves up and continue on that journey to be the best authentic self? No different from yourself being an advocate beyond the imbalance of a disease, to be able to now speak to others who are now learning. This is what the corporate world expect for you to do. You got to go out in the difficulty of hearing a rejection, a no, when you make that first pitch. Are you going to use my product? You're going to have to go back and get a yes eventually, and having that stick-to-itiveness. So having mothers, having fathers, having cultures and structure that put in place us, the child, the energy going forth to make a difference into this world, to make an impact on this world. We're just as much a part of the system. Well said. So we need not complain and not have a solution-oriented mindset. So thank you for that response. And
thank you. That was a perfect synthesis. I know I felt like I was a little all over because I had so many thoughts, and that was the perfect synthesis.
Indeed. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, most definitely. I think it's great when we're able to truly listen to each other. And what these interviews really do is that it allows us to be able to have a dialogue for anyone who's now listening, to be able to see that, connect what is being said to your life, make it applicable, take what you can use, and improve upon that. Which brings me to another point. Leadership and the role of leadership. It's clear that in a lot of what you've done, you've really embraced this role of leadership. And what I mean by that is you've gone out there in the music industry, you've made impact. The poetry and the depth in which you go, even with the spoken word. Again, I hear the depth in your experience and just the relatability of people resonating with you. That's leadership, natural leadership, and embrace from the perspective of what you saw in your parents, your grandparents, etc., and acknowledging that those roots. To be able to do that, leadership today, at the same time, many leadership are not quite the examples that are inspiring. Especially among women, melanated women, right? Melanated women are the original women on the planet, truth be told. And with that being said, there's a high expectation for them to return to the right memory, the right pattern, prior to them not being able to see themselves rightfully. Many times they might try to look like another race that does not look like themselves. You clearly embrace who you are on so many fronts. So many times we're actually models, not knowing that we're modeling either for self or modeling for a foreign nation. But we always want to keep what charity begins where? At home. So with that being said, in us attempting to reclaim specifically our women, and I'm speaking about original women, because if original women reclaim their true identity, guess what? By default, the entire planet benefit. If they're not right, the entire planet is not going to be right, i.e. the system is broken. So the system in of itself, and it's not that we're blaming women, but the fact of the matter is our first teacher is our mothers, right? 9 moon cycles within the womb, she's our first teacher. And we need to honor her just as that. The father might have planted the seed, but the mother is really the first teacher, because she's always, whatever vibration she's in while she's pregnant, the child naturally resonates with that. And I see, and I could possibly hear your mother coming through you, your grandmother coming through you. So your ancestors clearly live and you gave them credit. So honest to you as it pertains to that. But my point is, how can we reclaim that space with grace and impact, like literally acknowledging the greatness of who our women were without apologizing?
I believe that there are a few things in there that I think are important to note. It's a hard balance, to try to, one, remember and honor where we come from, but also see the future and see where we're going. And I think that we're in a world that pendulums a lot, whereby we either lean too much on what the past is and symbolizes, to all of us, and not also claiming and reclaiming what we see the future generations do. So I think when it comes to me and I guess what I try to cultivate as a leader or with the women that are around me, there is just this understanding of self and recognizing, we talk about systems, recognizing how the systems around us benefit from us not knowing ourselves. Wow. And how they, to the point where they can actually put thought of self into us, you know, the point where I can start to embody a being that I was not intended to be. And so I think it's very important for us to teach what balance looks like. What does it mean to reclaim, you know, to recognize the lineage that I come from, to love my Black features, to love my hair, and also recognize that some people play dress up and some people like to do different things to their hair on a regular basis, and that's also their right and liberty to be able to do so. So I think that it's really important to just focus on this idea of, who are you? Are you liking this because this is you? Are you liking this because people told you that you are not enough? Are you embracing this because people said that this is the only way that you can be loved? I think about all of those messages that we get, and I want us to be more emphatic around allowing people to start to learn how to listen to their spirit, listen to the ancestors that are within them, listen to the voice that tells them, the intuition that exists. I think that those are the things I think about when it comes to reclaiming, and also recognizing that what I think that somebody else is doing might not be it. You know, what I determine, I don't want to enforce my will upon anybody, but I want you to be yourself, and I want you to embrace and love yourself. And I think if love is there, then all the other things will fall into place.
Well said. If love is there, all the other things will be fall into place. With that thought, and as you were sharing, I think about just the nature of what our mothers are to us, and honestly, every mother that's listening to this broadcast right now, because mothers tend to love their children unconditionally based on the connection in those 9 months. We do live in situations where it might be broken, and for whatever reason, they might have trauma, right? And ones need to remember that unction within ourselves that literally strive through adversity, despite, such as yourself, moving beyond the imbalance, the dis-ease, and being able to own what that is and flip it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So
very much so. Next level. That's
yes.
I can't only be a queen being like a past queen. I also got to recognize the things that I need for the world I'm in now. And I think that that's the thing, making sure that we are balanced, that we are able to look to the past and see that as examples and still hold on to that love of ourselves, but also looking to the future and recognizing the world we live in and how do we adapt as women to what that entails, and not adapting too much to the point where we lose ourselves. And I think that that's the thing that I grapple with, and I try to I guess complicate a little bit in the conversations I get to have.
So yeah, but what is that being able to look into the future? What does that look like?
I mean, I think that a big part of it is, and I grew up in a very conservative denomination, and there are definitely things that I hold on to still now, and then there are things that do not serve me now, you know, and I think that everyone deserves to have the autonomy to decide that. And so I don't want to ever operate from a space of judgment, not knowing people's experiences and why they do. I just want people to be able to make the best decisions and hold on to the things that will best serve them and the community in the future. And that might not look like what my mama thought, you know, that might not look like what other past generations thought. Every generation looks at the next generation's culture and goes, oh my gosh, it's not like what we grew up with. And I try to be very mindful of that as an educator, whereby I don't demonize certain behaviors because of the conservatism I grew up in. I do recognize I do have an idea of what self-love looks like and what it looks like to internalize patriarchy, what it looks like to internalize racism and beauty standards that don't fit us. I do know what that is, but I also know that some people want to put a wig on every now and then because they didn't do their hair. And I'm not going to judge her for doing that. So that's why I say when I say that we want to make sure that we're being balanced, and that the next generation has the freedom to do the thing that they most embrace, that the way to express themselves is important, but also recognizing that they need to still be connected to source. They need to still be connected to the roots of who they are and their identity, and recognizing what the difference is between their own identity, their own self-worth, their own understanding of who they want to show up as in the world, and what everybody else is telling them that they have to.
Okay. There's something that you're touching on that I really want to just bring it out. You're an educator. You have a unique role as a woman, because the woman is the first teacher, right?
Yes.
So you're educating these young minds. The university that you teach from right now is where?
Oh, no, I don't teach from there. I actually work with a few different nonprofits, and I teach throughout schools in New York City. So I teach creative writing, financial literacy workshops, as well as general programming that supports the young people that I mentioned in the program before. I adjunct teacher at Exalt, working with young people, helping them develop goals and self-esteem, and really repurposing their lives after being impacted by the criminal justice system. So I deal with a lot of different spaces of young people.
Yes, great. And what for everyone who's in a similar space, right? You have the ability to mold the future. That's really what I'm saying as an educator. And these young minds are like putty in your hand, because your perspective matter. They actually come to you seeking insight, wisdom, to be able to now navigate the future. So at some point, there's a reference that we draw from to say, okay, this go forward, and maybe this should not go forward. And how does one determine what no longer serves us? For instance, there's certain tradition that all nations hold on to, and they will come forth and protect those things, because the elders understand, if we don't hold on to this, we're going to lose a generation or two.
No,
right? So no, we don't want to stifle the next generation and have them now be in the fashion trend that we think might be cool. They might not be accepted by their peers, because their peers is like, no, that's not acceptable. You know, you're a square, or whatever labels that might be placed on them, right? And that can create scars. So you have that uniqueness of always doing this juggle. So how do you discern what stays, what goes? You know what I mean? To what extent is it their perspective? This is what they're going to. And when do we not become our parents who's saying, hey, be a little bit more traditional?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think that this is the foundation. And at the end of the day, you're right. We're building foundation, and the foundation needs to be solid. This idea of community is something that, like, the idea of caring for each other is something that is like it's an immovable fact. That's something we need to do as a community, right? I think about just respecting each other. I think about what it means to be responsible for ourselves and be responsible for how what we do impacts other people. These are all of the foundational truths that we want our young people to always embrace. And I think that those are different than some of the things that do change over time, like a fashion, like a thing of that nature. And I think what are the things that are going to be being critical thinkers is the thing that I think I linger the most on, is being able to critically think and analyze, why do I do the things I do? What is the motivating factor? And I think that that's the place where it shifts and changes. That's where tradition doesn't always work, where it becomes like, okay, I decided that this is evil or this is wrong. And there are things that are wrong. Yes, there is a line in the sand. But I think that it's like, wait, what actually is me? Maybe college is not for me. Traditionally, it's like, if you don't go to college, you didn't do what you're supposed to do. You're not a successful Black person. Like, these are some of the things that are traditions that we tell, especially our young women, because that's who predominantly is attending college right now. We tell them that that's the only way, right? You need to go to college, or you need to, dress modest. And modesty is something that used to be only eyes, or it can be just arms. I just want to make sure that we are focusing on teaching the universal truths of care and compassion, and making sure that those are the truths, that I'm also allowing young people to be able to critically think for themselves and also be able to learn. Because if I teach you critical thinking, you can go out into the world and figure it out. If I teach you how to be able to be accountable to yourself, you can go out into the world and figure it out. You can be an asset to your community. You can go, critically, I know that I'm doing this and this is not going to serve me in the future. This is going to lead to a terrible end. And so that's why I think we don't focus enough on critical thinking. We don't focus on that in school. A lot of it is regurgitation of information, like this foundation of like you figuring it out as a young person. And I have to give you the space to be able to figure it out or see it for yourself. Because we all know my parent told me all kinds of things I need to remember. And it wasn't until I entered these spaces where I had to like show and prove that I was like, oh yeah, that's what my mama said. She told me to be careful and to really look out for people, because when I look out for people, they look out for me. Like she taught me these things. And so I think it's about creating spaces for learning. And I think that that's the role of an educator, is to show these are the things that make sense to me. These are the things that help me. And then for them to be able to say, okay, this works. These are the things that are my foundation. How do I choose to build those blocks?
Wow, well said. We're here in the studio, Universal Pathway, and we're hearing from Shanelle Gabriel. And the way the question, it phrases, basically, she's speaking to leadership and things that are missing as we communicate with the youth. We need to hold a space for them to be uniquely who they are. And critical thinking is one of the things that's needed the most. If we can think for ourselves, I remember, different school of thought speaks in about, there's a difference between giving a person a fish and teaching a person how to fish. And as an educator, you clearly are teaching these young men and women how to fish as opposed to giving them a fish. And many times we are just being given things, but we don't know how to use these tools. And one of the greatest tools that we have is right between the ears, that brain. We got to get that brain. I call the brain Brian to be right. So if we can get the brain to function on a way and connect it, hopefully even with the heart, it becomes profound, because now we have that essence of love leading us to be able to make better decisions. And you have a certain ability, a gift, which is, I would say in my world, I say a master flipper. And what I mean by master flipping is you get lemon, guess what? Miss Gabriel is going to make lemonade. Bottom line.
That's why I wore yellow today. Huh? That's why I wore yellow today.
Oh, wow. Indeed. Yes. Like I said, too, that's my favorite color. And then lemon, lime green. The flyer that we sent out was a green as well. So two profound colors. Gifted, but we have people who think that they're not gifted. How do we get past that surface? How do you, as an educator, be able to quickly identify these gifts? And what are the things some of the parents who are watching, who might have gifted children, can bring forth to bring out those qualities similar to what your parent, like you said, your mother have done for you? What are some of the things that you would recommend and suggest?
I think parents should, and as somebody that is not a parent, but mothers many, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I think that it's just important to give young people spaces to try and try for a while. We do have an energy of I'm not good at. And that's usually the conversation that I'm having. It's like, I'm just not good at it. I'm bad at this thing. And it's like, no, it's not that you're bad. It just takes a little extra work. And I think that giving our young people opportunities to try, fail, and try again, opportunities to be consistent. I might not want to go to practice today, but no, you're going to practice. You're committed. Teaching this level of commitment that you need for any skill, any ability that you have. I think that that's very important. I think recognizing that gifts don't always come in the same package. Like gifts aren't always performance based. My sister, Michelle, always is like, oh, you're the creative one. My sister is creative in the sense that she can put an outfit together that I would never see, right? I was like, that is creativity. And how do we continue to embrace that? And, you know, in our young people or even as adults, I think as adults, we also hold on to these narratives that one time we tried to sing in the school talent show and clearly we're not meant to be a singer. Maybe back then you weren't, but maybe now you have a different voice. So it's just a matter of creating spaces to try and to keep trying and to discover and to learn and to try things that don't feel like they're maybe the thing that it comes naturally to us. You'd be so surprised how things transfer into these other skills that you want to practice on. So I really do think just try it, like, and throw it at the wall and see what sticks, and give kids the opportunity to do so as well.
Wow. Beautiful insights. I'm going to give our tech team another opportunity to see if we can get a commercial in here. If not, I'm going to continue this interview with our guest today, Ms. Shanelle Gabriel. I'm Curtis Douglas. This is Universal Pathway right here on Millennium News 24. We'll attempt to get another commercial or a commercial in the next minute or so. Let's give them an opportunity to see if we go to a commercial. All right. With that being said, we're going to continue. We're going to continue. So far we've spoke about a lot. We're at the last 15 minutes of the show, and I'm truly honored because if the interview seems deep, it has to be deep. And why do I say that? I'm not dealing with somebody who's on a surface level. When you do look online and you Google the name Shanelle Gabriel, a lot's going to come up. And sometimes we have among us ones that people might not realize and appreciate. I truly appreciate what she's done so far in her journey. And it's as if she's just beginning. Our women and our brothers as well needs to be able to find more Shanelle Gabriels because of what she's able to do. The beautiful thing in what she's saying today is that we as a people have been given a negative start based on the current system. But guess what? That was never our beginning. We're here today in Universal Pathway is just to remind the soul, remind the thinker, because what is the soul? The soul is your ability. The activity of the soul is your ability to think, reason, understand, then will. So if you can now become a thinker, understand what you're thinking about, because of your reasoning, you now have the faculty and capability to now will. And your will in life is what you're developing. That's the part of us that people do not see. Mm-hmm. So like the young lady who came in and was like putting herself down, you were able to flip that and say, no. Let's look at that again. Let's ask some deeper questions. Like I said, the quest I on. So now that I'm on a quest, let's go into that I, the idea, the ideal you, and let's make it on. Let's turn on the light within self. So now that the light within self become turned on, you can now see past the ignorance, the dark system, and you can now know where to step. So guess what? You don't need to be profiled because you start to see now based on the dynamics of reading the terrain, your environment, that certain people might not be treated the same way. And it should not be that way in an ideal world. But unfortunately, we have people who can sometimes be cynical, critical. But if we are critical thinkers ourselves, we can better align ourselves. So our good sister, Miss Shanelle Gabriel, is reminding us today here on Universal Pathways to be able to create safe space for our youth, but first for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We can see past so-called diagnosis of imbalances, diseases, etc., autoimmune diseases, such as what she's now gone through. And we can now earn our wings and we can now fly and be examples, closing out meetings for Fortune 500 companies, being able to impact our youth and being able to be a shining beacon light examples as a human being. So I said she's an inspirational human being in so many ways. When she smiles, she lights up a room. So we got to allow that light in us to continue. We're into the last minutes or so. And I just want to give you the opportunity to basically speak to what are some mantras or principles that you would like to leave with our viewing audience today that have carried you through the storm that you've now gone through in life. I hear some of it in your poetry, but they might not have access to that as well. But what can you now say to that right now to give them some idea of the depth that we all carry based on your own ownership of that beauty within?
Oh, I firmly believe that life is hard, but it's also joyful, also fun, also serious. It's also, there are so many things for us to embrace in this life. And I think that we let the hard moments in life become either our definition or become the only part of life we choose to see. And I think that the more we can embrace the whole spectrum of all of the emotions that we can feel, all of the things that we deal with, I think that we are able to move forward in a positive way. I know, and many times things that I've dealt with, that's what I've had to hold on to. That's the only thing I could cling to. As hard as this is, I know it's going to pass. This too shall pass, as they say. And I told myself that a lot of times when I wanted to give up or when I didn't see the way out. As recently as like a few days ago, I think that sometimes we let those moments really immobilize us. And I just hope I encourage you that no matter how much you're dealing with, how hard it is right now, how challenging and overwhelming everything is, that there is a light that is coming. There is a resilience that you have access to, both in your DNA. It's woven into who you are, as well as it is something you practice and work at. And so just holding on to that ability. And also, I think it's important to really listen to yourself and learn yourself and be able to interrogate yourself. What are the things that we have been told that are no longer true? What are the things that we experienced that wasn't really our fault? Or maybe what are the things that were our fault? What can we learn from those? I think just being able to really analyze who we are, the things that shaped who we are, and find ways to connect with others and have these really important conversations can really, really help us heal as a community, as a people. So those are the things that come to mind when I think about just what are the things that get me through, have gotten me through, and what are the things that led to a space of healing for me.
Okay. Does the physical matter? Does the physical matter? Meaning, ones will see, this is where I'm going with the question, does the physical matter? You kind of spoke to it a little bit, but I really think if one were to go and see some of your videos, there's a part where you're in the gym, right? Right? And does it matter, the physical? And
if you're talking about just, oh no, I mean, okay, well that I can go into that. I was trying to be all ethereal, but I can definitely go into the concrete. Your body, first of all, listen to your body. Your body needs everything that I need as a person with lupus. Everybody needs. I need rest. I need to eat well. I need to move. I need to be active physically. And I think that we don't always listen to our body. And I guess that's also something I want you to critically analyze. What are the things that people told you you can't do? You could never run a 5K. Yes, you can. Maybe you have to modify it. But if we're going there physically, no, really and truly, your body, your mind, spirit, and body are so connected, and it's very hard for one part to move without thinking about the other part. So if your body is not whole, sometimes that definitely impacts the mind. And so please make sure that you are taking care of your body. Do not wait until something is wrong to take care of it, because by the time it starts telling you something is wrong, usually that's when it's really wrong. And so, yes, I definitely thank you for Curtis for lending me into bringing that into this space. I was speaking all the theory, but that is on a concrete level. Please, even if it's just stretching in the morning, even if it's just meditating, whether it's a Bible text or affirmation, just taking that time to sit with your mind, your body, and your soul, and feed those things. I think that will really, really improve your quality of life in the long run, and also teaching our young people to do the same.
Oh, most definitely. I think it's always great to give people their flowers while they're alive. And you're not only talking the talk, you're walking the walk. And that's really what it is. So, thought, words, and deeds. And our physical body is a reflection. And for you to be able to adjust and make sure that you're doing the same way you're working on your physical body is the same way the mental muscles are being built. So there's a correlation and a direct connection. And our physical prototype reflect what's going on internally. And I'm sure those companies, when they do interview you to say, are we going to have you close out our events? You had to look the part, whether it be a suit, articulate yourself. And all I'm really saying is, across the board, your life speaks inspirationally to women. Continue to do just that. Hopefully, we can definitely build again in the future as you continue your journey. And you'll come back. Maybe the next time we be in the studio itself. It's truly an honor to have been able to speak with you today. But again, we're here today with Shanelle Gabriel. And like I said, this is a brief introduction to who she is and just the insight that she brings to Universal Pathway. Do go online, Google her name, but even better yet, are there any social media places that one could now go to get your music, your poems, and different things of that nature?
Oh yeah, definitely. ShanelleGabriel.com is always the easiest way to find me, and all my socials are at the bottom there. If I don't know when you're watching this, whoever's watching this, but if you're watching it live or if you're watching a replay, but on the 13th, I do have a show in New York City this Wednesday coming up. All that information about where I am, I travel and do this everywhere. Just go to ShanelleGabriel.com, and it's a privilege to be able to be here with you, my friend. Thank you for having me be able to share this. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all those things, and I definitely really, really appreciate connecting with you. Hopefully, I hope you have me back. I think there's more conversations to be had.
Most definitely. Like I said, what you're doing is inspirational. You're definitely an example to our people in general, and you're making an impact on the world. Honest to Mr. Carl Gray for connecting yourself and myself as it pertains to this interview and all that he's doing and all that you will continue to do. Again, please go to her website, see what I saw, because a mere 1 hour interview does not do the sister justice, because in the brief life that you've lived so far and she'll continue to live and unfold, she's done a lot and it's inspirational. I was inspired, I was motivated, and I looked forward to this interview, and I look forward to a part 2 possibly. And who knows, I might be there in that crowd on Wednesday, whatever that event is that you're going to be doing in New York City, to give support. If you can be there and you're in New York City, you're in the area, please go and support our good sister. Again, this is Shanelle Gabriel. This is Universal Pathway right here in New York City, Millennium TV, Millennium News 24. Please go to our website, subscribe, share this link. Get it to as much melanated, like she said, brown, melanated people who look like us, but also get it to everyone. Why? Because of the universal nature to which she speaks. The melanated woman is the mother of civilization, and we need to listen to our women when they speak, because they help to raise the vibration of the planet. So with that, I give you honor, Miss Gabriel. It's truly an honor to have been able to speak to you today, and I look forward to our future conversation as well. I'm Curtis Douglas Ill, and I'm your host right here on Universal Pathway. And we see you right here next Saturday from 1 o'clock to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace and love to you all.
Yay!